Well, good afternoon. This is Dave Hirsch, and I'm calling the case before us to order. Is the prosecution ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and is the defense prepared to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. We're not recording this, except Arapahoe County is recording it. There may be photographs taken by the Colorado Bar Association. Is there anyone on the live stream that is not affiliated with one of these two teams? I need you to leave the live stream at this time. No recesses are going to be allowed except in case of emergency. And we've already checked for conflicts. Any disputes arising out of the competition have to be reported in accordance with the competition rules. Your teammates, I want to make sure you all know that the compliance with time, deadlines, and requirements are going to be considered in the scoring of individual performances. So the scoring panelists will take that into account if you're overtime, if you don't comply with the time requirements. All right, so would someone from the prosecution please introduce your teammates?
Yes, Your Honor. My name is Virginia Frau. I am a prosecution attorney. I will be conducting the direct examination of Detective Jordan Markowitz and the cross-examination of the defendant Avery Becker. My co-counsel may proceed.
Thank you.
My name is Olivia Fendrick. I'm a prosecution attorney. I'll be conducting the direct examination of Alex Cifuentes and the cross-examination of Blake Van Owen.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Gwen Fitzsimmons, and I am an attorney directing Kyle Kuzak, and I will be doing the cross-examination of Taylor Perkins as well as the closing statement. And may we have permission for our witnesses to introduce themselves?
Please do.
Hello, I'm Olga Strabala, and today I'll be playing Alex Cifuentes.
I'm Mallory Coughlin, and today I'll be playing Kyle Kuzak.
Good afternoon. My name is Sloan Smith, and I'll be playing Jordan Markowitz.
All right, thank you very much. The defense, would you please introduce yourself and your teammates?
Yes, Your Honor. My name is Catherine Hay, and I'll be conducting the cross-examination of Jordan Markowitz and the direct examination of Blake Van Owen and Avery Becker. I will be opening as well.
Thank you.
My name is Percy Benedict. I will be directing Taylor Perkins and crossing Kyle Kuzak and Alex Cifuentes. Permission for our witnesses to introduce themselves?
Please do.
Hi, I'm Iris McClure, and I will be playing Blake Van Owen.
Hi, my name is Peyton Ankrum, and I will be playing Avery Becker.
Hi, I'm Helen Reichert, and I will be playing Taylor Perkins.
All right, thank you all very much. I look forward to your presentation. This time we're going to be administering the oath. Team members, please raise your right hand. Team members, do you promise that the presentation you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and the rules of the mock trial competition? If so, say I do. Witnesses, please raise your right hand. Do you promise that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to your witness statements, that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained in the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and procedures of the mock trial competition? If you do, say I do. All right, any gallery members, coaches, teachers, I can't see you, but please raise your right hand and promise to represent yourselves as positive role models, behave in a manner that exemplifies ethical and professional sportsmanship during and after this mock trial round. Say I do. Finally, scoring panelists, if you please raise your right hands. Do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and as objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and rules of the mock trial competition? If you do, say I do.
I do.
Thank you. All right, the prosecution, if you're prepared to proceed, please do so.
Yes, Your Honor. We'd like to begin with our opening statement.
Please do. Timekeepers are ready, I believe. Go ahead.
Your Honor, may I have everybody turn off their cameras if they are not going to be speaking? Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. All right. Ms. Fendrich, are you proceeding?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, please go ahead.
The death of a beloved coach, betrayal, a scandal that shocked a school to its core. Today, we will see the results of a free, democratic trial. But in such a society, we must also maintain the right to safety and justice. Your Honor, members of the jury, opposing counsel, my name is Olivia Fendrick, representing the people of the state of Colorado in this case. The defendant has been accused of attempting to take revenge on their mock trial coach by way of burglary and inadvertently murder. This case has been brought under the Colorado law for murder in the first degree, in which someone other than a co-conspirator dies during an attempted commission of burglary, and the Colorado law for burglary in the second degree, in which a person knowingly enters a dwelling unlawfully with the intent to commit a crime against another person or property. The facts of this case are clear. After being told off for inappropriate behavior at a regional mock trial tournament, the defendant vandalized the car of Mackenzie Brackman. When this event led to their expulsion from the team, and after unsuccessful attempts to rejoin, the defendant decided to burgle the home of Mackenzie Brackman with the intent to trash it and get revenge for actions that the defendant deemed unfair. On March 6th, after entering the Brackman household, the defendant was caught off guard by the presence of their former coach. Surprised, they did exactly what they do best: act irrationally. They stabbed the victim in the shoulder and fled the crime scene. There are certain facts in this case that are not in dispute. They are that the signatures on the witness statements are authentic, chain of custody for evidence is not in dispute, stipulations cannot be challenged or otherwise contradicted, that Exhibit 22's audio recording is an accurate copy from the court proceedings of the case against Jonathan Rowlands, and that Mackenzie Brackman's death did in fact occur. Both parties have agreed to the stipulated facts. Under Colorado law, there are several elements that must be proven for the defendant to be convicted. First, my colleagues and I must prove that the defendant committed the murder. Then, we must prove that the crime took place in the state of Colorado at or about the date and place charged. Next, we must prove that the defendant acted alone or with one or more persons. We must then prove that the defendant committed or attempted to commit second-degree burglary. And finally, we must prove that during the course of or in furtherance of the crime of second-degree burglary, the death of a person not participating occurred. The prosecution will call 3 witnesses to the stand. We will call a homicide detective, Detective Jordan Markowitz, who will testify that Avery Becker is in fact guilty after trying to vandalize Mackenzie Brackman's house and will do so by tracing cell phones. Kyle Kuzak will be called and will explain that this crime was planned by the intruder, the defendant, and how our victim was fatally injured by them after Mr. Brackman ensued a fight out of defense. Becker's close friend from the mock trial team, Alex Cifuentes, will testify that Avery Becker did in fact have violent intentions towards Mr. Brackman due to their problematic relationship, and Avery's anger and unpredictable tendencies demonstrated in mock trial are what led to Mackenzie Brackman's murder and the very reason why this trial is being held today. The defense will claim that there is not enough evidence to prove the accused guilty of Mackenzie Brackman's murder, but the 3 witnesses called to the stand today will state that the intruder and murderer had very clear intentions and planned this crime well in advance, which can be proven through multiple pieces of evidence and by 2 expert witnesses. Through a former teammate of Avery's, we will learn about the anger the defendant held and their serious pranks, so-called jokes that were taken too far. We will learn of the defendant's violent nature toward their coach, all signs indicating that they did not respect Mr. Brackman whatsoever, and how they sought for revenge for every criticism Mr. Brackman made through their bad attendance record, vandalism, and ultimately, Mr. Brackman's murder. In order to be convicted, the defendant must be proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, the burden of proof being on the prosecution, to prove to the jury's satisfaction the guilt of defendant Avery Becker. This means that the burden of proof will only be met once the jury concludes that the accused is undoubtedly guilty of the charges presented. Colorado's burglary and homicide laws exist to protect our citizens and serve justice to the unfortunate victims of such atrocities. If a guilty person is allowed to walk free, not only will the life of the hapless victim remain unavenged, but the assailant could very well kill again. It is our civil duty to see that justice is found here in this courtroom today. I ask that you keep your mind open until all arguments have been made, evidence has been entered, and witnesses have testified. For these reasons, Based on the evidence that will be presented in this very trial today, there is no reason a verdict other than guilty should be returned. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fendrich. Is there an opening for the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Hay, are you prepared to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please do.
Hello. My name is Catherine Hay, and today we will be representing the defendant Avery Becker. The defendant stands falsely accused of murdering Mackenzie Brackman as well as committing second-degree burglary. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is a case about confirmation bias as well as poor workmanship by numerous state investigators. This bias is demonstrated in their refusal to consider alternative theories, including other more likely theories and suspects. The evidence will show that Avery Becker has a strong alibi for the day and time of the murder, when there were other suspects who were unaccounted for at this time. Unfortunately, the evidence will also show the clear bias in law enforcement's eyes through how they were only focusing on proving Avery to be the killer and how they failed to collect exculpatory evidence that would have pointed them to the true killer. Detective Jordan Markowitz and Kyle Kuzak did not thoroughly examine the crime scene, deliberately disregarded other theories, and lost evidence. In the end, the evidence will show to be inconclusive and will not fulfill the burden of proof. Today, we will call 3 witnesses to the stand. First, we will call Blake Van Owen, who will tell us more about the shortcomings of the prosecution, as well as go over the bias that both Detective Markowitz and Mr. Kuzak clearly had. She will also go over Blair Rollins, a far more likely suspect to have killed Brackman. Second, Avery Becker, the accused, who will explain, as I stated before, that despite what the prosecution believes, she never went to his house and was with her friend on the day of the murder. And finally, Taylor Perkins will confirm that she and Avery were together the entire day on which Brackman was killed and that Avery could not have done it. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Avery Becker has been falsely accused of these crimes and had been with her friend all day. At the end of the trial, we will ask for a verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hay. Is the prosecution prepared to call your first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The prosecution calls Detective Jordan Markowitz to the stand.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Detective. First, could you please state and spell your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Jordan Markowitz, Markowitz.
To begin, tell me about your occupation.
I work as a homicide detective with the Denver Police Department.
And how long have you worked with the Denver Police Department?
I've been with them for 13 years total, and I've been a detective for the past 7 years.
What other certifications do you have?
I have received a cell phone technology and forensic data recovery certification from the American Academy of Law Enforcement.
And what did that entail?
I took a 3-day certification training and certification test. The course covered types of cell phone data and records that can be obtained, how to use forensic software like the Celebrate system to download information from a cell phone, and how to acquire and interpret cellular records and cell tower data.
And in what ways have you used this training in your work?
I have downloaded contents of approximately 100 cell phones and obtained and interpreted cell tower data from approximately 50 cell phones.
Your Honor, I move to enter Detective Jordan Markowitz as an expert witness in the fields of homicide, cell phone technology, and forensic data recovery on the basis of his training, experience, and certification in these fields.
And Ms. Frau, that was homicide, cell phone technology, and what was the third one?
And forensic data recovery.
Forensic data recovery. Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, there being no objection, Detective Markowitz will be allowed to testify as an expert in the fields identified and may offer opinions when factually appropriate. Please go ahead, Ms. Frau.
Yes, Your Honor. How did you come to be involved in the Mackenzie Brackman case?
I was assigned to this case in March of 2020.
Tell me about the initial details of this case.
On Friday, March 6, 2020, a passing motorist reported seeing somebody possibly passing out on the porch of 444 South Flower Street. The paramedics responded, but upon finding the victim, Mackenzie Brackman, called for officers. Brackman was found just inside the front door of the residence. Uniformed officers secured the scene, and I reported at approximately 14:20 hours.
What were some of your first observations upon arrival at the scene?
When I arrived at the scene, I observed that the front door was open and the victim was face down on the floor just inside the residence. And the victim was lying in a pool of blood, and there was a large knife visible just past the body.
Your Honor, may I share my screen to present Exhibits 1, 3, and 5?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Sorry, it's not sharing. I'm sorry, this is not, okay. It's,
Okay, I've tried to push share. What do I need to do to allow you to do that? Sorry, this is Heather, court monitor.
I don't think it's you. I think it's just my computer. It should be allowing, oh, and now it's working. Okay, there we go. All right, can we see that?
Yes, you can see Exhibit 1.
All right, thank you. And there's 3 and 5.
Yes.
Good. All right, Detective, do you recognize what is shown in these photographs?
Yes, these are the pictures taken from the crime scene of the victim's body and the stab wound, as well as the knife as it appeared at the scene.
Thank you. And do the contents of these photographs accurately reflect what you saw at the crime scene?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to enter Exhibits 1, 3, and 5 into evidence.
Ms. Hay?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibits 1, 3, and 5 will be received without objection.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, will you please further describe what you see in these photographs?
Yes, as you can see in Exhibits 1 and 3, the victim's shirt was blood-soaked around the upper left, back, and shoulder area, making it obvious that the victim had been stabbed. And because of the angle of the body, it appeared that the victim had most likely fallen to the ground while trying to leave the residence. Exhibit number 5 is a photo of the knife where it was found at the crime scene covered in blood.
All right, thank you. Sorry. My screen's getting messed up. All right, what other observations did you make at the scene?
Outside, I noticed that the side gate leading to the backyard was unlatched and the back door that leads to the kitchen was open. The rest of the house was slightly in a disarray, which could be a result of struggle or simply just normal state of the house. And I also noticed that some parts of the kitchen were a bit disheveled.
Your Honor, may I present Exhibit 7?
Yes.
All right. Exhibit 7 is here on the left. Detective, do you recognize what is shown in this photograph?
Yes, these are the pictures taken from the crime scene of the knife drawer from the kitchen of Brackman's residence.
Thank you. And does this accurately reflect what you saw at the crime scene?
Yes, it does.
All right. Now, what other observations did you make at the crime scene?
This is a photo.
Your final ones.
My final, okay. From the dining room table, I could see that there was blood on the floor around the knife and what appeared to be cast off blood splatter on the wall and the ceiling near the door. I also noted that there was no other victims and expensive items such as a laptop computer and several flat screen TVs that were left undisturbed, and the dining room itself was in disarray.
Thank you. Moving on, besides the evidence we've already looked at, what other evidence did you find important to this case?
Based on the number of homicides, I found a tremendous number of text and email messages related to something called mock trial. The t-shirt on a Brackman that he was wearing when he was stabbed said something about keep calm and mock on, and the front of the t-shirt had a high school mock trial logo. With a little digging, I found out that Brackman was a high school mock trial coach for Colorado High School.
And where did you go from there?
I reached out to the school and got contact information for all the students on the team. I spoke with a student named Alex Cifuentes who told me about some text messages that he'd received from another student on the team. And based on that, I had Alex Cifuentes and Cifuentes' parents come to the headquarters to conduct a full interview. It turned out that the other student was a senior on the mock trial team named Avery Becker. Brackman had recently kicked Becker off the mock trial team after Becker vandalized Brackman's car, and he later sent me screenshots of the text messages from Becker.
Your Honor, may I now present my screen to show Exhibit 14?
Certainly.
All right. Detective, do you recognize what is shown in these photos?
Yes, these are the screenshots that Cifuentes sent to me of his text messages with Becker.
And these accurately reflect what you received from Alex Cifuentes?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to enter Exhibit 14 into evidence.
Response from the defense, Ms. Hay?
No objection.
Exhibit 14 will be received without objection.
Yes, Your Honor. Detective, could you further describe these photographs?
Yes, this is the text conversation that Alex Cifuentes told me about. These screenshots show Avery asking him if he talked to Brackman about letting Avery back on the team. And when Cifuentes refuses, Becker reveals his plan to break into Brackman's house and trash it.
Thank you. Moving on, what did you do when you received this information?
I immediately contacted Avery Becker and arranged to have Becker come in for an interview. However, right before the scheduled time for the interview, I got a call from a lawyer hired by Becker's parents who said her client would not be appearing and that all future communications would have to go through her.
And how did you move forward from there?
I obtained a warrant to search Becker's cell phone, but when I called Becker's attorney to make arrangements for the search, she said that Becker had lost the phone on March 5th, 2020, and was no longer in possession of it. The attorney did provide me with the phone number for Becker's phone, so I got a court order to obtain account records from Becker's service provider and also cell tower records for March 6, 2020. The account records confirmed that the phone number I was given was in fact associated with a cell phone account in Avery Becker's name.
What did you do next?
I received the cell tower records. Technically, what I received are called cell detail records or CDRs. I used them to locate Becker's phone at different times on the day of the murder.
And what did these CDRs reveal?
In this case, the CDRs showed that another cell phone was sending several texts and placing several calls to Avery Becker's phone leading up to the time that Mackenzie Brackman was killed. All of the incoming calls and texts were from the same phone, and I later confirmed through providing records that it was a phone belonging to another Colorado high school student named Taylor Perkins.
Your Honor, may I now present Exhibit 16 on my screen?
Certainly.
All right. Detective, do you recognize what is shown in this diagram?
Yes, this is a diagram that summarizes what the call detail records from Becker's phone show.
And does this accurately reflect the diagram as you put it together?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to enter Exhibit 16 into evidence.
Ms. Hay, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 16 will be received without objection.
Yes, Your Honor. Detective, could you please describe to us what this shows us?
This diagram shows locations of different cell towers that Becker's phone communicated with during the time leading up to the homicide, as well as the location of each particular antenna.
Thank you. What does this diagram reveal about Becker's location on the day of the murder?
As you can see, the communications fell under 3 different cell towers. The first communication at 12:47 p.m. went through the cell tower at the top of the map, which covers Avery's house. The second communication went through the next cell tower at 12:55 p.m. The remaining communications at 13:05, 13:06, and 13:17 went through the last cell tower, which covers Brackman's house.
Thank you. Detective, based on the observations that you made on the scene, what can you conclude happened on the day of the murder?
These CDRs, the data indicates that Becker was at home somewhere between 12:45 and 12:50 p.m., then left and drove towards Brackman's home, traveling most likely along Rock Creek Parkway at 12:55 p.m. Then from 1:05 to 1:17 p.m., Becker was at Brackman's house. This diagram also shows a possible route that Becker could have taken to get to Brackman's house that matches up with this data.
All right, and what about the observations that you made at the crime scene? What conclusions seem logical based on those?
Based on those, I can conclude that it seems like Brackman was running either from Becker or after Becker and fell at the time of his death.
All right, thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Frau. Ms. Hay, any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please proceed.
All right. Detective Markowitz, do you know what confirmation bias is?
Yes, I do.
All right. For the purposes of the jury, I'll define it. The tendency to process information by looking for or interpreting information that is consistent with one's existing beliefs. From what you stated in your testimony, you seem to have a confirmation bias and almost a one-size-fits-all mindset. Would you say that's accurate? Yes or no, please?
No.
Okay, you've worked against Brackman before, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
All right, I'll go more into that later. Where did you believe the knife used to kill Brackman came from?
Brackman's kitchen.
The knife block?
Yes.
You also thought that it was likely a different brand because the original was broken, right?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to show Exhibit 7?
Permission granted.
My co-counsel will share his screen. All right. All right. Could you scroll down a little bit, please? Thank you. Detective Markowitz, could you please direct your attention to the knife below the one with the gray handle?
Ms. Hay, my records show that Exhibit 7 was not offered. Are you offering it into evidence?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Is there any objection? Ms. Frau?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right. Then Exhibit 7 will be received into evidence. Please go ahead.
Do you know which knife I'm referring to? I'm not sure if Percy could point to it with his mouse. Yep.
Yes.
No, the one below the gray knife. Sorry. So is it correct that that knife below that seems to have the same handle, same style, and brand as the knives from the knife block?
Yes.
So that seemed like a pretty big part of your investigation. Did you not think to check through that drawer at all to see if possibly the killer had brought the knife with them?
I did not check the drawer, no.
All right. Can you confirm that you did not download the contents of Alex Fuentes' phone and instead just accepted screenshots?
Yes, I did accept screenshots.
You downloaded the contents of other phones in this case, like Brackman's, for example. Why wouldn't you download this one?
I was informed that the phone was lost on March 5th, 2020.
Before that, right after the interview with Alex Fuentes, couldn't you have asked them to come back with the phone?
I could have, but I was supposed to go through the lawyer for further communication.
All right. So is it correct that you did not explore any other suspects besides Avery Becker?
Yes, that is true.
You even sided with one of the suspects and trusted Alex Fuentes, correct?
Correct.
Are you aware that one of the suspects have gone missing?
I am not aware, no.
So Blair Rollins, did you not pursue them at all?
I did not.
All right. Are you aware of Blair's situation?
I do not believe so.
Okay. You collected the cell tower information for Avery Becker's phone, correct?
Correct.
Did you collect the information for Taylor Perkins' phone?
I did not.
Becker had an alibi. Taylor Perkins was with her the entire day of the murder. So you did not check Taylor's phone records to confirm this alibi?
I did not.
All right. Avery Becker was not the only suspect with an alibi, but Blair Rollins, for example, did not have any sort of alibi and is currently missing. Did you not think that might be more suspicious than a suspect who did have an alibi and was with someone?
I did not look into that, no.
All right. And is it true that you have no way of confirming Becker's location, only her phone?
Yes, I can only use the CDRs.
All right. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Hay. Is there any redirect, Ms. Frau?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, please proceed.
Quickly, did you have any reason to believe that Alex Fuentes would be lying?
No, I did not.
And didn't he provide you with screenshots of a conversation that he had with Avery Becker?
Yes, that is true.
Is it also true that you were told to go through Avery Becker's lawyer in order to communicate with him?
Yes.
So the defendant wasn't offering up any information about any other possible suspects to you?
Correct.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Frau. Ms. Hay, do you have any recross within the scope of redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, please proceed.
So you said that you did not believe Alex would have any reason to lie, correct?
Correct.
Are you aware that Alex Fuentes was also another suspect in this case and was to have murdered Brackman?
No, I was not aware of that.
All right. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Hay. Detective Markowitz, you can be excused. Ms. Frau, does the prosecution have any other witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. The prosecution would like to call Kyle Kuzak to the stand.
Ms. Fitzsimmons, you're muted.
Yes, Your
you're gonna
Honor.
do the direct?
Sorry, may we begin?
Yes, please do.
Thank you. Good afternoon. To start off, may you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hi, my name is Kyle Kuzak. That's Kuzak.
Thanks, Ms. Kuzak. And what do you do for a living?
I'm a crime scene reconstruction investigator, also known as CSR.
Are you a police officer then?
No, I'm not a police officer. I'm just a civilian employee of the Denver Police Department.
Do you have any certifications?
Yes, I'm certified by the Colorado Bureau of Investigation for crime scene reconstruction.
And what's your experience in this field?
I have 19 years of experience investigating complex crime scenes like homicides, burglaries, fatal accidents, and armed robberies. And for the past 3 years of my tenure, I've spent it with the city of Denver.
Your Honor, I move to enter Ms. Kyle Kuzak as an expert witness in the field of crime scene reconstruction on the grounds of her many years of experience and certification by the state of Colorado.
All right. Mr. Benedict, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Then Ms. Kuzak will be allowed to testify to crime scene reconstruction and offer opinions, having been qualified and received as an expert without objection.
Let's move on to the afternoon of March 6, 2020. Were you present at the scene of the homicide at 444 South Flower Street?
Yes, I visited it after it was processed by other members of the crime lab, and I also reviewed all the police reports for this case, as well as photographs and the 4 ring security cameras.
May you please describe the sequence of events shown in the videos from the ring security cameras?
Yes. So the footage starts on March 6, 2020, and shows a perpetrator matching the general height and build of the defendant approaching the front door of the victim's residence. It then shows them moving to the south side of the house and out of range of that camera. Then the perpetrator is picked up a couple seconds later by the second camera, showing them proceeding down the south side of the house and through the back fence to the backyard. They're then out of range of that camera and picked up around 10 seconds later by a third camera at the back door of the victim's residence, and it shows them entering in the sliding glass door.
Your Honor, permission to share my screen and show the opposing counsel and Ms. Kuzak exhibits 7, 8, 9, and 18.
Permission granted. I see that 7's already admitted, but not the others.
Yes, thank you. All right, Ms. Kuzak, can you see this exhibit?
Yes.
All right, so we're actually going to start with exhibit 18. May you please describe what you see?
Yes, this shows the bottom of the sliding glass door that the perpetrator entered with some scuff marks right inside.
And where was this taken?
This was taken by the sliding glass door that the perpetrator entered through.
And what is the exhibit's relevance to this case?
I believe that it shows some kind of struggle that started by the back door of the victim's residence.
Has this exhibit been altered in any way?
Nope.
Your Honor, permission to move exhibit 18 into evidence.
Mr. Benedict, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
18 will be received without objection.
Thank you. And I'm now showing exhibit 7. This is already in evidence, but can you describe it, please?
Yes, it is a photograph of the open knife drawer in the kitchen with several knives and other kitchen utensils in it.
Thank you. And now I am showing exhibit 8. May you please describe this?
Yes, that is a knife block located a couple feet away from the open knife drawer on the counter with one slot missing.
Has it been altered in any way?
No.
Your Honor, permission to move exhibit 8 into evidence?
Mr. Benedict?
No objection, Your Honor.
8 will be received without objection.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Kuzak, what is the significance of these 2 images?
The empty knife slot in the block looks to be about the same size as the knife that was retrieved from the victim's body.
And finally, I'm showing exhibit 9. May you please describe this?
Yes, exhibit 9 shows a broken plate on the floor of the victim's residence.
Has this exhibit been altered in any way?
No.
Your Honor, permission to admit exhibit 9 into evidence?
Mr. Benedict?
No objection.
9 will be received without objection.
Thank you. And what did you infer from exhibit 9?
I believe that the plate had most likely been knocked off the table due to some struggle between the victim and the perpetrator.
All right, Your Honor, permission to share my screen with exhibits 5 and 6 to show the witness and opposing counsel.
Please do. 5 has been admitted, 6 is not.
Yes. All right. What is exhibit 5 a photograph of?
Exhibit 5 is the photograph of the knife that was retrieved from the victim's body covered in blood.
And what is exhibit 6 that I'm showing now a photograph of?
Exhibit 6 is the same knife as in Exhibit 5, but it's a picture that I took in my crime lab later.
Your Honor, permission to move exhibit 6 into evidence.
Mr. Benedict?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 6 will be received without objection.
And finally, permission to share my screen with exhibit 19.
Please do. 19 has not yet been admitted.
Can you see this?
Yes.
All right. What is this document?
It is the autopsy report of Mackenzie Brackman.
And did you use this in your investigation?
Yes, I used the autopsy report to understand the official cause of death and better reconstruct what happened.
Has it been altered in any way?
No.
Your Honor, I move for exhibit 19 to be entered into evidence.
Mr. Benedict?
No objection.
19 will be received without objection.
Ms. Kuzak, may you please read in exhibit 19, the final page of the autopsy report, the cause of death that was stated?
Yes. Cause of death, penetrating trauma to the thoracic aorta. More specifically, Mackenzie Brackman's death was caused by exsanguination following a single stab wound penetrating the mid subscapular back to the thoracic aorta and the junction of the ascending aorta and aortic arch. Injury is most consistent with a single-edged blade measuring approximately 6.4 centimeters in width and more than 19 centimeters long. While in place, the knife itself would have partially occluded the wound and slowed internal bleeding. Once removed, Mr. Brackman would have lost significant blood, leading quickly to death by exsanguination.
Is the blade described in the autopsy report consistent with the blade in exhibits 5 and 6?
Yes, it is.
Are you aware of Professor Blake Van Owen's theory of the murder?
I am aware of Professor Blake Van Owen's theory that the victim was stabbed from behind while seated at the kitchen table.
What do you think of this theory?
I've dismissed all likelihood of this scenario for a couple of reasons. First, the victim would have had to have been surprised by the intruder, and the Ring app associated with the video doorbells and the 2 security cameras would have alerted the victim of the intruder's presence via cell phone notification, well before the intruder actually entered his home. Second, the victim would have surely heard the back door slide open and likely would have heard the intruder walk across the kitchen. And third, the intruder would have been holding the knife completely backwards from just about anyone else if he had just picked it up. And lastly, Professor Blake Van Owen's theory does not account for the broken plate on the floor, the empty knife lock, or the open knife drawer.
All right, and now for your conclusion on the case. Where did the victim start?
I believe that the victim started inside his home and must have been alerted by the Ring security system as the intruder approached the front door and went around the gate to the side of the residence.
And what did the victim do next?
I believe that the victim likely looked for a defensive item in the knife drawer, which was left open at the scene of the crime, and then took a larger knife from the knife block as a way of defense. And then the victim confronted the intruder as they entered the back door, and the 2 individuals began to struggle over the knife.
And what did you conclude happened in the struggle?
The struggle would have began immediately at the back door over the knife, as you can see from the scuff marks shown in Exhibit 18. The struggle would have then moved towards the kitchen table where the plate was knocked off to the ground, as shown in Exhibit 9. And at some point, I believe that the intruder would have disarmed the victim and obtained possession of the chef's knife.
So how did the intruder kill the victim?
The location and position of the knife in the victim's body suggests that the intruder was in close proximity to the victim, possibly being constrained in a type of bear hug, and then reached over and stabbed the victim in the upper back and shoulder area. The knife was found just inside the front door near the victim's body, and there were cast-off blood and blood spatter on the nearby wall and ceiling, which is consistent with the victim forcibly removing the knife from his back. And the recovered knife matches the incisions and path of the victim's wound.
So after sequencing the events in this case, what conclusions did you reach?
It's clear to me that this was a burglary gone wrong. The intruder had knowledge of the victim's property and residence beforehand and had chosen a time of day when his pattern would have put him outside the home. However, the victim was startled by the intruder was startled by the victim being home, and the ensuing struggle cost him his life.
Thank you, Ms. Kuzak. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzsimmons. Attorney Benedict, do you have any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please proceed.
Ms. Kuzak, you said yourself that you are unable to recreate all events and wanted more evidence in this case, as was stated in line 130 of your testimony. Am I correct?
Yes.
Was there enough physical evidence to pin Avery Becker as the killer?
I do believe there was.
Do you have any knowledge of how photos became corrupted in this case?
I do not, but I was able to use the corrupted photos in my evaluation before they became corrupted.
So you saw the content of the photos in person?
Yes.
Did you draw your bear hug conclusion just from the placement of the wound?
Yes, and from the way most people would hold a knife.
Did you watch the ring footage?
I did.
And did you determine the bear hug as the most likely method of killing despite the size difference between victim and perpetrator?
Yes.
So can you be certain that the victim was alerted to the intruder's presence by the Ring doorbell?
You can't be certain, but that's what the evidence certainly points towards.
So is it possible that the scuff marks could have been on the floor prior to the intrusion?
It's possible but that also can't be disproven.
Ms. Kuzak, do you know the definition of confirmation bias?
Yes.
Would you like me to define it for the rest of the court?
I believe it was already stated.
Confirmation bias is defined by the Encyclopedia Britannica as the tendency to process information by looking for or interpreting information that is consistent with one's existing beliefs. Do you believe that confirmation bias has played a role in this case, specifically in the arrest of Avery Becker?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
Mr. Benedict?
I was simply asking the witness if she, my apologies, believes that confirmation bias played a role.
Overruled. You may ask the question.
Could you please repeat the question? Sorry.
It's all right. Do you believe that confirmation bias has played a role in this case, specifically in the arrest of Avery Becker?
I don't believe so. I believe everyone involved used what knowledge they had to come to a reasonable conclusion.
Ms. Kuzak, do you have a copy of what has been previously marked as Exhibit 17?
Yes.
Then may I direct your attention to that exhibit, and may I have you identify it, please?
Yes.
May you please identify it?
Yes, sorry. Yes, it is my CSR witness information tracking sheet.
And you know this because it's your sheet, you created this?
Yep.
So is it a fair and accurate representation of the witnesses in this case?
I believe so, yes.
Then, Your Honor, we move to move Exhibit 17 into evidence.
Can someone show that to me?
Will my co-counsel please share her screen?
Thank you. All right, so this is the document the detective or the Ms. Kuzak identified. Is that right, Mr. Benedict?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Fitzsimmons?
Objection on the grounds of relevance.
Mr. Benedict?
The questions that I am about to ask your witness heavily pertain to the information on the tracking sheet.
Anything further, Ms. Fitzsimmons?
No, Your Honor.
I am going to allow the admission of this exhibit, so please proceed.
Ms. Cusack, did you write any other potential suspects aside from Avery Becker?
No, that's what my evaluations concluded.
Ms. Cusack, you have other suspects stated in your witness tracking sheet. For example, Avery Becker is suspect number 1, Alex Cifuentes is number 2, and Blair Rowlands, an unlocated party, is suspect number 3.
Oh, yes, sorry, I was looking at the wrong line.
It's all right. So did you put Blair Rowlands into your summary of evidence as a suspect?
I did.
And is it true that the police did not attempt to pursue Rowlands any further?
They did not.
Are you aware of Blair Rowlands' disappearance following Mr. Brackman's murder?
Yes, I was just informed on Jordan Markowitz's cross.
Am I correct in saying you know Professor Van Owen?
I do know Professor Van Owen.
Do you believe that your opinion of her could have impacted your assessment of her report?
I don't believe so. I follow a very strict regimen of how I do my work, and it isn't ever impacted by someone else.
Then, are you aware that other investigators describe this investigation as rushed and sloppily done?
I have heard that, yes. I don't believe it, though.
Did you label this case a burglary gone wrong?
I did.
And is it also true, as stated in Markowitz's testimony, that expensive items were still left in the home?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Attorney Benedict. Ms. Fitzsimmons, any redirect?
I do not have time for redirect.
So you decline redirect? All right, the witness will be excused. Do you have any further witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. The prosecution calls Alex Cifuentes to the stand. Good afternoon. To begin, will you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Alex Cifuentes. That's Stfuentes.
Alex, what high school did you attend last year?
I'm actually still a senior at CHS.
Wonderful. Did you have any extracurricular involvement at school?
Yes, I was on the mock trial team.
Did you enjoy that activity?
Yes, I think that is the best club and I really enjoy it. And I think I'm actually really good at it. I practice a lot for it. Yeah.
So you could say that you took it pretty seriously, right?
Yes.
Were there any students on your team that didn't take it seriously?
Yeah, Avery Becker didn't take it seriously. She was always late to practices and she was never prepared.
What was your relationship like with them?
Well, I was really good friends with Avery. We were practically best friends.
Yeah. What was Avery's relationship like with your coach, Mr. Brackman?
It wasn't a good one. They always had little fights. And one time it even escalated to where Mr. Brackman demoted her to B team.
Oh, wow. What did Avery do because of that?
Oh, she missed practice for the 10th time.
Yeah, but it's to my understanding that she ended up on A team after that. How did that happen?
Oh, well, for some reason, Taylor Perkins gave up his spot on A team for Avery Becker, which, yeah.
Now, did you notice any major conflicts between Mr. Brackman and Avery prior to the night of the murder?
Yeah. Avery Becker vandalized Mr. Brackman's car.
Oh, wow. And so what did Mr. Brackman do after that?
Well, as any person would do, he didn't let her back on the team. I am surprised he didn't inflict any legal, anything legal on her, but that's just such a good coach. That's just a representation of what a good coach he is.
Yeah. Did you have any contact with Avery after they were kicked off the team?
Yes. She asked me to text Mr. Brackman and asked him to let her back on the team. And I'm a good friend, so of course I did that.
Yeah. Did they end up saying anything that maybe concerned you or alerted you that there was something wrong here?
Yeah, well, I did ask Mr. Brackman, and he said no. So after that, when I relayed the news to Avery, she texted me and told me that she was going to trash Mr. Brackman's house. I was really concerned.
I see. And that is our time. Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Fendrich. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please proceed.
Before I begin, Ms. Cifuentes, what pronouns and prefix should I use to refer to you? Just asking.
Her. Yeah.
Got it. So, Ms. Cifuentes, did you think that Mr. Brackman was a good coach?
Yeah, he was a great coach and a great lawyer.
Did you think that he was a good person?
I would think so, yes.
Am I correct in saying that you believe you hold yourself to a high standard and strive to be a good lawyer?
Yeah, yes, I think mock trial is great, and I try my best to be a great participant.
Did you encounter Avery Becker and Taylor Perkins at the Fry Shack on March 5th?
Yes.
Is it true that Avery gave you her phone to play a game on?
Yes.
And is it true that you only sent the detective screenshots of the text messages you received from Avery Becker?
Yeah, my phone I offered to go back to get my phone because I left it to charge and then I forgot. And yeah, I'm sorry, but she said that I could just send her screenshots.
So am I correct in saying that you received these messages before Brackman's murder?
Yes.
And upon receiving the messages from Avery, did you think to alert Brackman of her plot?
No.
Did you alert anybody else?
No.
Would I be correct in saying that should you have not reported the messages and Avery successfully trashing Brackman's house, Avery would have gotten in legal trouble?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative question.
Mr. Benedict?
Your Honor, may I withdraw the question?
You can.
Then I move to withdraw that question.
Granted.
Ms. Cifuentes, would you describe you and Avery as skilled lawyers?
I would definitely say I'm skilled, but Avery is more improvising.
Ms. Cifuentes, do you know Blair Rowlands?
Well, as anyone would, we were all in the same class together, but in the same grade class together, like Avery and Taylor and me, but I don't think I ever had Blair in my class.
So do you have any idea why Taylor would say that you and Blair were good friends?
I have no idea. I did not have a meaningful relationship with Blair.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Benedict. Ms. Fendrich, any further examination?
Your Honor, I believe our time does not permit for that.
All right, thank you. The witness may be excused. Does the prosecution have any other witnesses to call?
No, we do not, Your Honor.
And do you rest?
Yes.
The prosecution is rested. Is the defense intend to present any case?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Hay, call your first witness.
We'd like to call Blake Van Owen to the stand.
Please proceed.
All right. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Blake Van Owen, O-W-E-N.
And what do you do for a living, Miss Van Owen?
I am a private investigator and a professor at CU teaching police practices and social justice. I got my master's degree at Ashford University through an online program that they provide, which made me want to become a professor. By the way, I would prefer to be addressed as Professor Van Owen rather than Miss Van Owen. I mean, who wouldn't after all the work I've done to get the title?
Right, my apologies. Professor Van Owen, can you tell us about the situation with the Aurora Police Department?
Yes. After beginning at the Aurora Police Department, I had injured a young woman during an arrest. Then I left the force and was cleared of wrongdoing, although I still felt guilty and was unable to clear myself, which made me learn that the system was not as great as it could be. So I started working at other jobs and then eventually got to studying and teaching about criminal justice.
All right, where have you been accepted as a defense expert?
I have been accepted as a defense expert in the U.S. districts for the districts of Colorado, Kansas, Arizona, and the state courts in Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska, and New Mexico. I have been accepted by various courses as an expert in crime scene recreation 8 times, in cell tower analysis 5 times, and in general police investigation tactics 12 times, and I have been consulted on more than 100 cases.
All right, what do you testify to being an expert witness in?
Cell tower analysis, crime scene reconstruction, general police investigation practice, police policies, false arrest, and forensic evidence techniques.
All right, Your Honor, we move to enter Blake Van Owen as an expert in cell tower analysis, crime scene reconstruction, general police investigation practice, police practices, and forensic evidence techniques pursuant to Rule 702.
All right, I'm trying to make sure I've got all 5 of those. All right, is there any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right. Professor Van Owen will be allowed to testify in the 5 categories identified by counsel and offer opinions as an expert. Please proceed.
Thank you. What did you get out of the cell tower information?
The cell tower information can sometimes be very helpful, but most of the time it is not very accurate. A cell phone can connect to a cell tower up to 7 miles away. This shows that the cell phone doesn't have to be close to any specific cell tower to connect to it, and the cell phone could be in an entirely different place.
All right, so can we be sure that Becker's phone was at Brackman's house?
No, we can't tell that their phone was there. Even if we could, we'd have no way of being sure that Avery was with her phone.
Does the cell tower information confirm that Becker was at the house?
No, we can't confirm that.
How authentic do you feel the text messages are?
Not very authentic. They could have been easily doctored. Although we consider this as evidence, we know that the text messages can be easily manipulated. Markowitz also downloaded information from multiple other phones in this case and yet decided not to download information off of this one, which was not a very intelligent move and is evidence that she was trying to rush to get the information they wanted rather than undertaking a thorough investigation.
Were you allowed to see the evidence?
No, but I saw the digital files of evidence, pardon me, sorry. Well, most of the digital evidence.
Most?
The prosecution, lost some of the files and said they became corrupted somehow. Luckily for them, the CSR team got a look at them before that, but they got corrupted before I saw them. Seems a little too lucky.
How do you think the police did in collecting evidence and creating theories for what might have happened?
The people assigned to this case did not take any other possible options for what had happened into consideration when looking at the evidence. As I said, they lost photo evidence and did not collect cell tower information from Taylor's phone, which is neglecting information to prove a point. Rushing an investigation can cause a lot of problems in the long run and leads to something called confirmation bias. They also jumped to conclusions in this case because by not looking at each person other than Avery Becker, they missed the fact that Blair had more of a motive. He was barely investigated at all, and it is not okay to let these things slide, even if they're little.
Could you tell us more about Blair Rollins?
Yes. Blair Rollins is a child of Jonathan Rollins, a former client of Brackman's. Brackman was unable to clear Jonathan of the murder charge, and he was sentenced for life in prison. From looking at the CHS yearbook, I can see that Blair Rollins has the same build as Avery Becker. Also, Blair Rollins essentially disappeared after graduation. I have not been able to locate Blair despite extensive research, and I feel certain that Blair Rollins is no longer in Colorado. Despite that, the police never investigated Rollins, nor made any attempts to locate Blair. I also learned that Blair Rollins and Alex Cifuentes were friends.
All right. Your Honor, permission to show Exhibit 22.
Okay.
Professor Van Owen, do you have a copy of what has previously been marked as Exhibit 22?
Yes.
I direct your attention to that exhibit. Would you identify it, please?
Can someone show that on the screen?
Yes, my co-counsel can.
Perfect. Thank you. Go ahead.
Professor Van Owen, I direct your attention to that exhibit. Would you identify it, please?
Yes, it is audio of Jonathan Rollins' court proceeding.
How do you know this?
It was marked as such.
Is it a fair and accurate representation?
Yes.
Your Honor, we move to enter Exhibit 22 into evidence.
So that I'm clear, are you wanting to admit this piece of paper showing the link, or are you asking to admit the M4A itself?
The actual recording.
Okay. Ms. Fendrich?
No objections, Your Honor.
There being no objection, Exhibit 22 will be received.
Could my co-counsel please play this recording?
Yes.
My apologies, I just realized I was muted.
I'll get you back, Brackman, if it's the last thing I do.
All right. Professor Van Owen, what can you tell us about this recording?
This is a recording of Blair's father when he was convicted because of Brackman. After hearing what's said, I think it is safe to say that Blair would have been upset. Wanting to get revenge for your father being sent to life in prison is a more likely motive for murder.
Between Avery Becker and Blair Rollins, which of them seems to be the most likely suspect?
Blair Rollins, no doubt.
Could you tell us what you think about the ring footage?
Well, first of all, there aren't any timestamps on them, and there's no identifying evidence that proves it was Avery. Like I said, Blair Rollins was roughly the same size and build of Avery. It could have been him.
How do we know these were on the day of the murder?
Well, we really don't. The prosecution failed to include timestamps, and as we all know, they seem very trustworthy with evidence.
Objection, Your Honor. Improper character evidence.
Any response, Ms. Hay?
No. No, Your
Honor. Sustained. The testimony will be stricken. Please ask your next question.
All right. No further questions.
All right. Cross-examination, Ms. Fendrich.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Professor Van Owen. So let's begin by discussing your relationship with the police. You used to work for the Aurora Police Department, is that correct?
That is correct.
But you left your job after an altercation that made you reassess your trust in law enforcement, right?
Yes.
Would you consider it your duty to keep police officers in check?
No, I would not say that.
I see. But would you say that you have an unfavorable view of them?
I think that they do their job well most of the time, but looking at some of the information that they did not do sometimes makes me believe that it is not as great.
You've worked with Detective Jordan Markowitz before, right?
That is correct.
Would you consider them to be good at their job?
We have our differing opinions, but I respect them.
Do you think Kyle Kuzak is good at her job?
Same as my answer before.
Do you believe that if you had handled this case, it would have been more accurate?
I would say so.
Do you think that if the defendant were to be acquitted, it would reflect poorly on Detective Markowitz and Kyle Kuzak?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
All right. Do you think that if the defendant were to be acquitted, it would reflect poorly on Detective Markowitz and Kyle Kuzak?
I would say so.
Objection, argumentative.
Response, Ms. Fendrich?
Your Honor, I solely seek to understand how this witness views law enforcement and what they believe to be was the best way to handle this case.
Anything else, Ms. Hay?
No, Your Honor.
Objection overruled. Please proceed.
Now, considering your business, you charge quite a bit for your services, $6,000 to $10,000, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that is correct, but I don't do this job for the money.
And a good portion of your expertise revolves around, in your words, quote, making a decent living, revealing where the police have dropped the ball, end quote.
That is true.
So, in other words, you could say that your success relies on the alleged failures of the police, correct?
I would not say that. I only look for stuff that the police neglected to look for and present it to show that the evidence is not as accurate as it could be.
Moving on, you only ever testify specifically as a defense expert, correct?
Yes, I work for the defense because it provides more opportunities and I like helping innocent people.
So, just for clarification, this is the side that the police tend to oppose.
Yes, that is correct.
So you could say that since your resignation from the Aurora Police Department, you've consistently worked against police efforts?
Yes, I would say so, but not intentionally against them.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Fendrich. Ms. Hay, any redirect within the scope across?
Yes, Your Honor. Professor Van Owen, am I correct in saying that you as a defense expert, that is your job?
Yes, that is correct.
All right, and you said you do not do it for the money?
I do not. I do it for the quality, experience, and for helping others.
All right, no further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Fendrich, any recross within the scope of redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, this witness will be excused. Does the defense have any further witnesses to call?
Yes, Your Honor. We'd like to call Avery Becker.
Please proceed.
All right. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Avery Becker, Becker.
And why are you here?
I have been falsely accused of murdering Coach Brackman.
What was your relationship with Mackenzie Brackman?
He was my mock trial coach. I'd known him for years. Even though we disagreed and definitely had different preparation styles, he wasn't that bad of a coach, and he's greatly missed.
How long were you on the mock trial team?
All 4 years of high school.
Did you enjoy mock trial?
I did. It was one of my favorite pastimes in high school.
What happened the night after regionals?
The night after regionals, Coach Brackman got upset because of our different preparation styles for mock trial, and I stormed out. I thought I had a dry erase marker, but Unfortunately, I had a Sharpie and I had scribbled something on his car. And he kicked me off the team because of that.
Did you talk to Brackman after the incident?
I was really remorseful. I tried and I went to his office to apologize the next morning, but he wouldn't see me. And so I said that I was going to get a summer job to repaint his car, but he wouldn't listen. So I also sent an apology text.
Was this the first time you had overreacted like this?
Yes.
All right. How did you feel about the situation?
I felt horrible. I mean, I didn't mean to damage his car. I just thought it was dry erase marker.
What is your relationship with Taylor Perkins?
Taylor's my best friend.
And your relationship with Alex Cifuentes?
We don't really get along, but Alex keeps claiming that we're best friends.
Do you know Blair Rollins?
Not really. I know his dad's in jail because of Brackman, but other than that, really nothing.
What do you know about Blair and Alex's relationship?
They seem really close from what I've seen.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
Ms. Hay?
Lack of personal knowledge.
No, counter, Your Honor.
Would you like to lay some additional foundation for that?
No, Your Honor.
All right, just objection sustained. The testimony will be stricken. Please proceed.
Do you know what the alleged text messages said?
I did not because I didn't send them.
Where were you on March 6th?
Taylor and I were looking for my phone. We kept calling it to see if we could hear it or not, but we couldn't find it.
Why were you looking for your phone?
I had misplaced it. I couldn't find it.
Where did you go to look for it?
We wanted to retrace our steps, so we walked around the mall and we then saw some members at the Fry Shack.
All right. Do you know where Brackman's house is?
No, I don't have a clue.
How did you feel when you found out he had been killed?
I was in shock. I mean, I've known him for 4 years, and I felt horrible when I found out he had died.
All right. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Hay. Cross-examination, Ms. Frau.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Becker. How about we begin with your relationship with the victim? It wasn't a positive one, no?
We had different preparation styles and would sometimes argue about that, but I believe it was relatively healthy.
All right. Isn't it true that he demoted you to B team just a short while before the regional tournament?
That is true.
After you'd been on the team for several years.
Yeah, I think we were all just a little bit frustrated in the situation.
And he did this even though, in your own words, you're one of the best on the team.
Yes, I think that the situation that occurred had made him take a pause and rethink the situation, but yes, I was.
And isn't it true that after the regional tournament, he berated you in front of all of your teammates?
That is true.
Humiliating you, even though you were awarded the Best Attorney Award at the tournament.
I definitely didn't think he had felt that I had appreciated my skill level, but yes, that is what had happened.
And this made you angry?
Frustrated.
And so frustrated that you stormed out of practice and vandalized Mr. Becker's car.
I was hurt and I had wanted to get my point across, but it was an accident nonetheless.
Objection. The defendant's character is not in question.
Ms. Frau?
The defendant's character and character disposition absolutely is in question. We need to know if the character had the kind of relationship with the victim to lead him to murder him.
Ms. Hay?
I believe I'm correct in saying that past situations cannot be used to prove whether or not she killed him.
Ms. Frau?
We're using these examples as insight into the relationship between the victim and the defendant. This is absolutely necessary into proving exactly what happened to Mr. Brackman.
I'm going to allow the questions. It's a close call, but thank you for the objection. Please proceed.
So back to the incident with the car, you wanted to show him how you felt.
I was frustrated, but yes, I accidentally wrote on his car.
You accidentally wrote on his car? You didn't mean to write anything on his car?
I had thought it was a dry erase marker.
But you still wanted to show him how you felt.
I was frustrated. He didn't appreciate my skill set, and I was hurt, but that was all.
Ms. Becker, could you please answer the question? You wanted to show him how you felt.
Yes.
Thank you. So, in a moment of anger, your judgment was clouded, and you vandalized his personal property, yes?
Accidentally, yes.
And Mr. Brackman then kicked you off of the team.
He had.
And even after you tried to apologize and even offered to pay for the damage, he still wouldn't let you back on the team.
Yes.
And after all of that, wouldn't you say that you hated Mr. Brackman?
I wouldn't say that. I've known him for 4 years. We had definitely had a bond, but I was hurt. I mean, I'm the best attorney on the team, and he didn't appreciate that, and that really hurt.
So you wouldn't say that you hated Mr. Brackman?
No.
Are you aware in your witness statement on page 5 of your witness statement, line 138, it says, the one person who hated Brackman more than I did?
I am aware of that.
And are you also aware that you were given time and the opportunity to change this witness statement before the trial if you wanted to?
That is true.
So are you disagreeing with what you said in your witness statement?
My personal feelings about Brackman has nothing to do with what had happened the night of his death.
But to confirm, you hated Mr. Brackman.
At the time, yes.
You hated Mr. Brackman for kicking you off of the team repeatedly and humiliating you in front of your peers.
That is correct.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Frau. Ms. Hay, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right. The witness may be excused. Does the defense have any further witnesses to call?
Yes, we would like to call Taylor Perkins, and Percy will be directing her.
All right. Mr. Benedict?
I am ready to proceed whenever my witness is.
I'm ready.
So good afternoon. Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Hi, my name is Taylor Perkins, Perkins.
Do you know why you're here today?
Yes, my friend Avery is accused of murdering our coach, Coach Brackman.
Your coach of what?
Mock trial.
What was your relationship with Mackenzie Brackman?
When I attended Colorado High School, he was my mock trial coach.
Why did you join mock trial initially?
Initially, to spend more time with Avery.
So why did you drop the team?
Well, I thought it would help Avery get back on the team. We were some of the best attorneys, and I knew that Brackman wouldn't want to lose his best attorneys.
How would you describe Avery's relationship with Mr. Brackman?
They didn't get along very well, and Brackman got mad at her a lot.
What happened after mock trial regionals?
Well, Avery got 2 awards, and Brackman got mad since Avery hadn't really prepared, and he kicked Avery off of the team. Then Avery vandalized Mr. Brackman's car with a Sharpie. She thought it was dry erase, though.
Did Avery tell you how she felt about being kicked off the team?
She did.
And how did she say she felt?
Very
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
With the objections hearsay, Mr. Benedict?
Your Honor, this is offered as basis for future questions I will be asking my witness.
So it's background or?
It serves as background, yes.
Ms. Fitzsimmons?
He's still asking the witness to repeat something that Miss Becker said, and I don't know what it's going to be used for, but it seems like it will be used for its truth.
Ms. Benedict, is it going to be offered for the truth of the matter asserted?
Yes, it is.
I'm going to sustain the objection. Please go ahead.
So what happened the next day if Avery was so upset?
Avery tried to apologize, but Brackman just ignored her.
And how did Avery appear to feel about being ignored?
She appeared very remorseful.
How would you describe your relationship with Avery Becker?
Oh, we're really close friends.
Would you consider her to be a good lawyer?
I would.
Would you consider Mr. Brackman to be a good coach?
I wouldn't say he was bad. It was very my way or the highway with him, but he definitely wasn't the worst coach.
Can you confirm that Avery Becker was with you all day on March 6th?
Yes, I can.
And what were you doing?
We were looking for her phone.
Where were you?
The mall and the fry shack.
Do you know Alex Cifuentes?
Yes, we were on the mock trial team together.
Do you know Blair Rowlands?
Not that well.
What do you think of Alex Cifuentes?
I didn't really like them. They're a suck up with a superiority complex.
And what did you think of Blair Rowlands?
Again, we're not that close. I kind of stayed away from them since they're a pretty weird kid.
How would you describe Alex and Blair's relationship?
I was under the impression that they were friends.
Miss Perkins, did Avery text Alex to ask them to ask Brackman to reinstate Avery on the team?
Maybe, I don't remember.
How did Alex behave around your coach?
Again, they were a suck up and Brackman just preferred them to Avery.
What happened at the fry shack on March 5th?
Well, we went to grab something to eat and Alex showed up being nice. Then Avery got mad and went to the bathroom and left her phone on the table. And I don't remember Avery getting the phone back.
Was Alex's testimony an accurate representation of these events?
Not at all. Alex says that they were friends with Avery, but Avery would never ask Alex to let her back on the team because they weren't really close friends. So Avery wouldn't even give Alex her phone, even just to play a game.
Now, you stated in line 65 of your testimony that Avery's phone is like her third kidney. So why did she leave it?
She was just really upset, and I think she just didn't realize that she had left her phone.
And how did Avery realize she had lost her phone?
She didn't answer any of my texts the next morning.
Miss Perkins, did Avery inform you of any intent to further harm Brackman following the car incident?
No, not at all.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Ms. Fitzsimmons?
I would like to conduct a cross-examination, Your Honor.
Please do.
Good afternoon, Miss Perkins. Let's start with your relationship with the defendant, Avery Becker. You and the defendant are very close?
Yes.
And you worked together a lot in mock trial?
Mm-hmm.
And you were friends outside of mock trial as well?
Yes.
And in your opinion, Miss Becker was very good at mock trial?
Yes.
But your coach, the victim, Mr. Brackman, had a feud with Miss Becker?
Yes, they had different styles of doing mock trial.
And you said that Avery often played pranks on Mr. Brackman?
Mm-hmm.
So Mr. Brackman often got very angry with Avery?
Yes.
Because she was so unprepared?
Mm-hmm. It was just her style of doing things.
So Avery was demoted to the B team?
Yes.
And you felt bad, so you decided to quit mock trial so Avery could have your spot?
Not so she could have my spot. I knew that if I got off of mock trial, Brackman would kind of let us both back in since we were some of the best attorneys.
But you did not join the team again, did you?
I did not.
So Avery went to regionals and won 2 awards. Mm-hmm. But Mr. Brackman was still angry with her?
Yes.
And you heard about Brackman and Avery's fight at practice?
I did.
Where Brackman said that Avery did not deserve the awards? Mm-hmm. And this made Avery very angry?
Yes.
So Avery vandalized Brackman's car? Mm-hmm. and she wrote Worst Attorney Award in permanent marker on his car?
Yes, but again, she thought it was a dry erase marker.
So Brackman kicked Avery off of the team?
Mhm.
And Avery tried to get back on the team?
Yes,
Would you say she made every possible effort?
I would say that, yes.
She even asked Alex Cifuentes for help?
Well, even though she was fairly desperate to get back on the team, I don't think she would have asked Alex. Again, they weren't very close friends at all.
I believe in your witness statement, though, you say you believe she did ask Alex.
Okay.
And Avery went to a practice to talk to Brackman?
Yes.
And this was the night before Brackman's murder?
Mhm.
But Brackman did not let her back on the team?
He did not.
And Avery felt this was unfair?
Mhm.
And you and Avery both skipped school on March 6th, 2020?
Yes.
The day of Brackman's murder?
Mhm.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzsimmons. Mr. Benedict, redirect to within the scope of cross.
No, Your Honor.
All right, this witness may be excused. Does the defense have any further witnesses to call?
We do not.
All right. Is the prosecution prepared to offer their closing argument?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, please proceed.
The death of a beloved coach, betrayal, a scandal that shocked a school to its core. The defendant has been accused of attempting to seek revenge on their mock trial coach, Mackenzie Brackman, by way of burglary and inadvertently murder. They face the charges of murder in the first degree and second-degree burglary. Today, the prosecution has called on 3 witnesses and built a clear case against the defendant. First, you heard from homicide detective Jordan Markowitz, who testified to her conclusion that the defendant is in fact guilty after conducting a thorough investigation into the case. From her, you learned about how the burglary took place in the early afternoon of Friday, March 6th, when the victim usually would not have been home. Detective Markowitz also highlighted the incriminating cell phone data, which showed the defendant's phone travel from their house and directly to the victim's residence around 1 in the afternoon that day. Next, Ms. Kyle Kuzak, a crime scene reconstruction investigator with over 19 years of experience, was called on to detail the events that took place at the victim's residence on Friday, March 6th. Using the evidence in this case, Ms. Kuzak described to you how the perpetrator approached the victim's residence from the front door, alerting the ring security system, and then promptly snuck through the side gate and around back. The victim, having been alerted to the intruder's presence via 3 different security sensors around his residence, armed himself with a chef's knife from either the knife block or the open knife drawer found in his kitchen. Ms. Kuzak testified that all evidence in this case points to a planned burglary gone wrong. The crime was clearly planned in advance by the intruder, but they were not expecting to find Mr. Brackman at home that Friday afternoon, and the resulting struggle between the defendant and the victim left mock trial coach Mackenzie Brackman dead. Finally, you heard from the defendant's close friend from mock trial team, Alex Cifuentes, who testified to the defendant's history of irrational behavior and anger towards Mr. Brackman. Ms. Cifuentes described how the defendant previously vandalized the victim's car, writing Worst Attorney Award in a permanent marker across the hood after being told off for inappropriate behavior at the regional mock trial tournament. When this event led to the defendant's expulsion from the team, they did everything in their power to get back on. Ms. Cifuentes showed text messages sent to her by the defendant after this incident, where the defendant begged for help in getting back on the team after Brackman repeatedly would not let her. In these texts, the defendant goes so far as to describe their intention to trash the victim's residence if they are not let back on the team. The defendant's anger and unpredictable tendencies demonstrated at mock trial are what led her to the victim's residence on March 6th, and when surprised to find Mr. Brackman at home and armed, are what led the defendant to take the knife and kill Mr. Brackman. Today, you also heard from the defendant's 3 witnesses as they desperately tried to get the defendant acquitted for their crime. They called upon the defendant herself, whose testimony that they lost their phone the night before the murder and then skipped school on the day of the murder to find it was a laughable attempt at an alibi. The fact is, the defendant did not shy away from their anger and clear hatred towards Miss Brackman, even today after his death. Next, you heard from Taylor Perkins, the defendant's best friend. Miss Perkins has demonstrated her clear loyalty towards the defendant in the past, going so far as to drop out of mock trial so that the defendant could take her spot. Miss Perkins testified that the night before Mr. Brackman's murder, the defendant had gone to a practice in a last-effort attempt to get on the team, but was unsuccessful. Miss Perkins also highlighted the hatred in between the defendant and Mr. Brackman and the defendant's tendency to play pranks on him, such as vandalizing his car. You also heard from the private investigator that the defendant hired, Professor Blake Van Owen. He came to his investigation was the epitome of confirmation bias, as he refused to see the defendant as a potential suspect, and he came to his conclusion based more upon his desired outcome than the facts and evidence shown in the case. As Ms. Cusack testified, Van Owen's theory involves Brackman, a man who has armed his house with a top-notch security system, sitting at his kitchen table, completely unaware as an intruder alerts 3 alarms, opens his back door, walks across the kitchen, then stabs him in the back with an upside-down chef's knife and flees. It seems clear today that the evidence is abundant and all points to the defendant. The prosecution has been given the burden of proof in this case, and we have proved without a doubt that the defendant committed or attempted to commit second-degree burglary when they entered the victim's residence with the intent to trash his house, not expecting Mackenzie Brackman to be home. But unfortunately, Mr. Brackman was home, and the struggle cost him his life. Based on the evidence today, there is no reason that a verdict other than guilty should be returned. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzsimmons. Mr. Benedict,
Yes, Your Honor.
are you giving the closing for the defense?
Yes, I am.
Please proceed.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury and opposing counsel, my name is Percy Benedict, and once again, I am a defense lawyer in the People of Colorado versus Avery Becker. In the case presented by the prosecution, there is insufficient evidence to convict Avery of first-degree felony murder and second-degree burglary. The prosecution has not proved beyond reasonable doubt that Becker is guilty of these crimes. Therefore, we ask for a verdict of not guilty. We have learned today about confirmation bias. Law enforcement rushed to incriminate Avery Becker based on the events following regionals. Avery Becker drew on Mackenzie Brackman's car in a fit of anger. Her attempts to apologize were met with silence from Brackman, furthering her remorse. Would somebody who felt so horrible just for vandalizing a car go so far as to trash a house or murder the man they wanted so desperately to apologize to? The prosecution and their police witnesses say that we are guilty of confirmation bias, yet they are not exempt from it themselves. As has been said in previous testimony, the police rushed to find Brackman's killer and settled on Becker based on loose evidence. Her vandalism of his car was an act of anger, not an indication that she was planning to harm him further. One would have to make a considerable leap in judgment to go from criminal mischief to murder. Law enforcement's rush to convict Avery Becker led to a sloppily done investigation, including accepting screenshots of text messages rather than the actual phone, only choosing a narrow time frame for the cell tower records, and glossing over pertinent evidence and suspects in favor of rushing to find Avery guilty of the murder. Their certainty of Avery's guilt based on her past rash actions have tainted their view of the case and another potential killer, Blair Rowlands. As has been mentioned throughout this trial, the investigation of this case was rushed, and detectives did not attempt to pursue Blair Rowlands. Rowlands has a motive, was missing from school on March 6th, and has gone missing in wake of Brackman's murder. Avery Becker was a rash and impulsive girl, yet she only wished to apologize to the victim after riding on his car. Her remorse shows no intent to harm or even burgle Mr. Brackman. Law enforcement's bias against Avery neglects to state just how much she wished to apologize in the wake of her one mistake. Mock trial meant everything to Avery. Do you think she would risk imprisonment by murdering her coach, the coach of the team that she loved? Would she risk the team and friends and activity that meant the world to her? Her relationship to Brackman is irrelevant. It is Avery's love of mock trial that matters. If she lost Brackman, she lost mock trial, and she lost her passion. Ladies and gentlemen, Blair Rowlands is in high school, and their father has recently been put in prison due to Mr. Brackman's inability to do his job correctly and acquit his father. Jonathan Rollins, Blair's father, is serving life in prison, and Blair may never get to see him again. The last thing said by Jonathan before he was sent off to prison is that he will get his revenge. Now, Blair has seen the perfect opportunity to enact his revenge for him. Blair was able to get to the lawyer's house, kill him, and escape right after. And to top it all off, they had an accomplice and the perfect person to pin it on. This is the situation Blair Rollins has been put into. Does this story not seem more likely than Avery Becker going to trash his house just because she was kicked off of the mock trial team? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defense does not have to prove that she is innocent, but it is the prosecution's job to prove her guilty. They have not met the burden of proof beyond reasonable doubt that Avery Becker is guilty. This case is fraught with doubt. Therefore, we ask that the only verdict you deliver is the fair verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I believe that concludes the proceedings in this case. And so the matter will stand submitted. So as the scoring panelists are finishing up their score sheets, I just want to compliment everyone on a job very, very well done. I felt that the presentations were excellent. Obviously, you all know the material very well. So I was very impressed with the quality of the work, both by the witnesses and the lawyers. And I thought that the presentations were very strong. The only suggestion I have for everyone really is to relax now that you've gotten the first round out of the way. You know this problem, you know your proof, you know your issues. So relax, enjoy it. The one thing that I've learned over the years of participating in this mock trial process is that it's really a speech contest. God bless you. So enjoy the opportunity to perform for the folks that are watching you. A little bit of theater, a little bit of engagement. If you have objections, believe in them. Maybe cite one of the rules if you can. If you've got a response, be strong about what you believe. But you all did an excellent job, and I think you should all be very proud. And I applaud you, and I encourage everyone in the audience to give applause to the participation and the excellence that was shown. And Heather, I'm going to turn it over to you for a second to see where we are.
At this point in time, I need to go ahead and I would love to have all the videos live streaming again if we could. And then also I want to find out from my scorekeepers where they stand on their scores, if they've been submitted or where they stand at this point in time.
Heather, I've gone ahead and submitted.
Okay, so I got Kate submitted.
Serena is submitted. I've submitted.
Mine's been submitted as well.
Okay, at this point in time, it's you guys' opportunity to give your feedback to the students so they can hear what you guys have to say.
Kate,
Dave,
why don't you go ahead?
You take over with timing them or keeping them in succinctness.
Kate?
Well, I just have to say, wow, I hope you all go to law school because we would benefit by such wonderful young lawyers. So it was really fun and entertaining. I haven't done this in probably 10 years. So you guys, I have to tell you, are way better than they were 10 years ago. The witnesses I thought were very entertaining. You knew your stuff and you stuck to it really well. I do agree with Dave Hirsch that you might think about arguing your objections a little bit. You kind of made them, but get behind them and, argue them a little and you might win some more of those. I thought the openings and closings were incredible, especially the closings. They just kind of blew me away. So that was great. Percy in particular, I liked how you used your fingers to count at some point, because one of the things that in court, it gets kind of boring and you're really stuck now because you're sitting in front of a computer, which by the way is court right now. But being a little animated kind of keeps the jury awake sometimes and makes them look at you and think about what you're saying. So little things like that are great, but I just have to say you guys blew me away. So great job. You've obviously prepared well. I expect we're going to see these two teams in the finals. If I have anything to say about it, you guys did great.
Thank you, Kate. Serena?
Hi, I would like to go ahead and echo the rest of the comments so far. I thought everybody did a great job. It's definitely obvious that everyone knows the case. Just to give you a little bit of background what I am, I'm a partner at Montgomery Little and Soren. I pretty much do defense work for architects, engineers, and contractors. Getting back to this, I mean, I thought you guys did a great job. It's obvious you know the case. One thing I would like to see a little more is get away from the notes a little more and just tell the story. I mean, you guys know it. I mean, it's more of, I think, a confidence factor rather than a knowledge factor. I thought both sides did really well with direct on your questions. Ms. Frau and Mr. Benedict did a good job on impeaching their witnesses on their exhibits. I would echo the sentiment of don't be afraid to object. I was actually very happy to see as the case went on, because I know this is the first round, everybody's got jitters, but I was happy to see as the case went on, both sides became more comfortable with objecting. I would say probably the most common ones in this mock trial are going to be relevance, hearsay, and narrative. If you've got a witness that's just going on and on and on and talking, object, say narrative. Get the other side to ask another direct question. If it doesn't feel right, object. I would say that Ms. Frau and Ms. Hay did a good job going back and forth, arguing on one of the objections there at the end. Let's see, Ms. Friendrick, you had a lot of good things to say, but if you could just slow down a bit, it would help me to hear what you had to say. It's obvious you really knew the case. Ms. Ankrum, as far as the witness, you made the defendant likable, which is sometimes very difficult. As far as the strategy on confirmation bias, what I would suggest is just asking questions up to that. Like when you're doing the cross of your witnesses, you knew what you wanted to get out of the other side, and you wait until the very end. In other words, saying you knew this person, you didn't look at this information, you just assumed this was the right way to go, didn't you? So you have confirmation bias, don't you? The other side will object. Doesn't matter who answers, whether that answer is there. It's just a strategy ploy. And then I like the way you actually looped it back into the end there. You kept that theme all the way throughout. But overall, I thought both teams did a really good job.
Thank you very much, Serena. Catherine?
Great job. I kept sitting here thinking that I would love to have been in the courtroom and see your presence there, because it is so hard to tell your presence on the computer. And I cannot imagine how incredibly hard it is doing this and staring at this box while trying to do it. So great job. I hope you guys all get the chance to do at least one round in the courthouse at some point during your high school careers and be able to actually do that. It's a lot easier to object, and there's a lot different atmosphere and feelings when you're sitting in the courtroom. And it really is just a competition, because I could see how this could be easy to kind of just be a rehearsal again, where when you're in the courtroom, the judge is up there and there's people sitting in the jury box. It is a completely different feeling. And you all did great. And I hope you do get that chance before, if you're not seniors, before you leave high school. So great job, everyone. I can't, again, imagine how hard this was.
Good work. I applaud you all. Thank you, scoring panelists, for your comments. Heather, anything else we have to do?
No, we've received all the score sheets from this room. Please know that your teachers will be receiving your next round, where you're going to be going to. It's going to be a little bit, because we just bear with us, getting everybody going. All of the courtroom monitors are going to be here in the office doing the scoring and stuff like that as well. So opening up those rooms may take a little bit. So just be patient with us. Okay, guys? Other than that, good job. And we will see you on the next round. Okay?
Nice job. Thank you. Talk to you later.
For judging.
Bye-bye.